Love and romance is always in the air on Neighbours.
There have been 57 weddings in the last 40 years.
But not every wedding has ended in I do.
Love, love, love.
Love is in the air. I think the most memorable wedding for me was the one we did on the Thames.
Oh yes.
I love you, Carl. I always have and I always will.
We'd waited such a long time for us to get back together, so it was
special.
joyous.
Call me biased, but it's got to be Eire and David's. Come on, it was beautiful. There was so much love. It was also the first same-sex wedding on Australian television since same-sex marriages were legalised in Australia. That was pretty special.
My most memorable wedding would have to be Paul and Theresa's up in Sanctuary Cove. We were supposed to go to Las Vegas. That's where the Elvis-inspired theme came in. Paul and Therese finally together. It's what our fans wanted, it's what we wanted. We loved every minute of it.
Paul may well be the most wedded character in television history. 6 wives, 14 weddings. Probably the most memorable or notable weddings to me would be the ones that I had with Gail. We had such fun as a married couple and actors.
Possibly one of my favourite weddings was Libby and Drew. Mainly because I had to give a father of the bride speech. Kimmy and I and you were all very close, so it did actually feel very real.
It was just such a romantic, perfect, beautiful wedding.
Very special.
Most memorable wedding, I think I have to say Scott and Charlene's. Got to be a bridesmaid, wear a pretty taffeta dress.
My most memorable wedding would have to be Leo and Krista's wedding. I was so excited to do it for the 40th anniversary, and Leo finally got to be a groom at his own wedding instead of just being a guest for so long.
When it comes to weddings that weren't Paul's, my favourite all-time wedding would have been Des and Daphne, filming the Bucks party the night before. And we were just really naughty, naughty boys. That was fun.
I've actually loved Susan as a marriage celebrant. However, have you noticed that none of her marriages have lasted? There have been quite a few separations, breakups, deaths.
I don't
divorces.
like you being a celebrant at all.
Why?
Well, I have to go to every wedding by myself.
So I've been told that I'm actually the most wedded woman on Neighbours history. I've had 3 different husbands and almost wedded Gary. It's kind of an honour, in a way.
When we're on the subject of weddings, my wedding to Terry, not only was it my first wedding on the show, but it was the very first wedding on the show, full stop. Me. First.
Oh, and didn't 2 dogs get married? Like Bouncer and some other dog that's black and white. There was a doggy wedding on the show.
That's a wedding I'd go to.
I do.
That happens a lot on Neighbours.
Ramsay Street is the hotspot for shock and scandal,
Family secrets.
affairs.
Long lost children.
Baby swaps.
Oh yeah.
Neighbours covering up crimes.
Neighbours coming back from the dead.
No wonder everyone's always gossiping.
Oh no, Susan.
So the biggest scandal for me would definitely have to be when my husband Brad ran off with his ex Lauren Turner. We did the big 3-hander for that storyline. There was a lot of fireworks, a lot of drama.
You're supposed to be my friend!
Christ, will you just let me explain?
And I threw that jam jar really hard. Oh yeah.
My most memorable scandal got to be the Who Pushed PR story. That was the storyline for the 6,000th episode anniversary. That was nearly as big as Who Shot JR. It was such a shock when they found out who it was.
The most memorable, scandalous moment, I think, for Jane might have been when she kissed Scott after he was already married to Charlene. Oh, got in big trouble for that. Scandal, huh?
Harris.
I know. One of Susan's most interesting / scandalous stories was her affair with the priest. Father Tom turns up at the local church. I don't know what Susan was doing at the church, and before you know it, whoop, these frocks off and that's it. And she's defrocked a priest.
The most scandalous part on Neighbours for me was the baby swap storyline with Nicolette. She accepted $1 million to bring back a baby. She took the money and then she swapped a baby.
Oh.
Conveniently, she had another baby available and swapped it over.
Nicolette.
Doesn't get better than that.
Oh, the cancer con, when he convinced Elle to convince everybody that she had cancer.
You have to go through with it with courage and conviction.
Which of course makes me think about the old what goes around comes around, because if you remember, Paul was involved in a cancer scam many years later with evil Dr. Nick.
My most scandalous moment would have to be the love affair with Leo and Therese. Paul walking into the penthouse, springing us.
That's probably one of the most scandalous.
Yeah.
And saucy.
Leo getting revenge when he was rejected by Therese and going and sleeping with her daughter, Piper. That was Nick level scandalous.
So immature.
My biggest scandal moment was Izzy's baby. Izzy is pregnant to Gus, but Gus dies in fire, lit by Paul Robinson. So she cons Carl into believing the child is his. And then eventually, Carl finds out that he wasn't the father. Carl dumps her and wants to be back with Susan.
Explosions.
Tornadoes.
Fires.
Bushfires.
Getting lost in the bush.
Car crashes.
Plane crashes.
Hot air balloon crashes.
And of course, let's not forget the baddies.
Stalkers.
Kidnappers.
Con artists.
Criminals.
Vengeful neighbours.
Evil twins.
Crocodiles? Ah!
Erinsborough is no stranger to disaster and danger.
The disaster that will stick in my head for the longest will be the balloon crash.
She hasn't got much time. She needs surgical drainage.
Carl got poor young Felix Mallard to go get a hand drill so Carl could drill a hole in the side of the poor girl's head. She died.
Of course, the most memorable, dangerous situation has to be Paul losing his leg and the lead up to it. The whole thing from being chased in the bush to falling over the cliff, all bruised up, banged up, nearly drowning, being saved by Dylan, taken to hospital. Unbeknownst to him, Dylan goes and signs the consent form while he's asleep. That was one hell of a journey. And I wished I had $1 for every time people say to me, "Do you ever forget to limp?"
I haven't really been involved in too many disasters, actually. But I remember the big storm, the bar on the beach.
Oh, the telegraph pole.
Poor Brittany.
Crush. Yeah, Brittany. Oh.
The most memorable, dangerous moment for me would be when the Renshaws came to town and came looking for Leo. Therese actually saved my life and took a bullet. Great moment for Leo, and he was able to kind of help diffuse the situation in the siege. That was a good one.
One of the most dangerous situations that Susan's ever been in was being alone in a cabin in the bush with Finn Kelly. He had lured her there, and she was tied to a chair listening to him digging her grave.
So my most memorable disaster would have to be the big explosion at Lassiter's in the foyer. My darling boy Josh passed away, and my father-in-law, Doug Willis.
How could we leave out 20 years ago, the plane crash?
We plummeted into Bass Strait, but luckily, Susan's clearly a terrific swimmer because she was able to tread water for 3 days. But she was in the water amongst the engines and the debris with Izzy, and they actually had a little moment of connection before she swam away and left her for dead.
The most memorable one for me has got to be River Bend, right? We all went out into the bush. There's a bad guy and he's beating everyone up, meaning me. I don't know why neighbours keep going out to the bush.
I don't know, they shouldn't. They should stay home. Safer.
The Grim Reaper is only a footstep away.
There have been plenty of births on Ramsay Street.
But there's been even more deaths, so we need to talk about those.
69, in fact.
No, I think it's actually 70 now that Seb's gone.
I think one of the greatest losses on Ramsay Street was Sonia.
No!
She and Toadie were kind of Carl and Susan in waiting, and to lose her, I felt like the heart got ripped out of the show for that period. The performance that Eve gave,
Amazing.
she was stunning.
Even though we're actors and we're acting out the loss of somebody, you do actually get a great sense of sorrow when it happens. My most memorable death would be Daphne's. It was harrowing. We were just sobbing in the green room watching it being filmed. All hail to Elaine Smith and Paul Keane. They were just remarkable.
The most significant death for Therese is definitely Josh. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time when the explosion went off at Lassiter's, and we were all there. We were all supposed to go to the wrap party that evening, but we were so emotionally drained and exhausted. We came very close to not going.
One of the most memorable deaths was early on when Carl killed Cheryl Stark.
I have hundreds of patients. I can't remember everything they're all allergic to.
The thing about the death, though, was a bit strange, is you'll think that she died by hitting her head on a curb because they couldn't show the actual impact with the car. The show was G-rated. The accident was too violent. It was a brilliant accident they filmed, but we never got to see it.
It was my mum, my dad, my fish, Dr. Muscles.
Yeah.
There was Josh, Hendricks. There was Tyler's dad. I think that's it.
Yeah, I think you're forgetting somebody.
Who?
David.
Oh, my boo.
Yeah. Your husband.
I'm so sorry, boo.
I love you.
I think David's is probably the most memorable one. Heartbreaking, wasn't it?
Yeah.
My most memorable death would probably have to be when Leo lost Brittany. It really sent him on a downward spiral, so it's a really tough time for Leo, losing the mother of his baby.
And then raising Abigail on your own.
Yeah.
But you've done a great job.
Solid dad.
My nickname is actually the Grim Reaper because Paul, if we do a stock take, has been directly or indirectly responsible for 7 deaths. Shocking. Terrible.
Never forget, though, the #1 rule on Neighbours.
If you didn't see the body, they can always rock up on Ramsey Street.
Neighbours wouldn't be Neighbours without its laugh out loud moments.
There's always room on Ramsey Street for fun and silliness.
And a little bit of cheekiness.
My favourite laugh out loud moment would definitely have to be Therese on the bucking bull. That was absolutely outrageous, and she looked like she was having a lot of fun.
Memorable laugh out loud moment. Dippy gave her some tea. It was like an aphrodisiac tea anyway. So Jane and Paul at the school, under the desk.
Do you remember when Paul was having it off with Izzy, and at the same time, so was Carl? Carl thought he was the only one. Paul knew he wasn't. Lo and behold, Carl comes in, a little bit frisky, onto the bed. Woohoo! While Paul's under the bed.
Carla, it's still morning.
The funny thing is, it was never scripted. Nat had her feet dangling over the edge of the bed, and I'm underneath the bed, and I start tickling her feet, and she's giggling and laughing and all of that. That was real.
I think my favourite laugh out loud moment is the moment when Aaron turned up to give us a couple of pieces of organic fruit.
Oh my God. Aaron is mortified at the thought of what's gone on behind that door. As well he should.
One of my favourite lol moments is pretty much any time Aaron dances, or any time I see these hanging up on my costume rack. I know I'm in for a bad day that day.
My laugh out loud moment would have to be when Leo throws the giant love heart at Vera Punt. I thought it was really funny.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God! Leo!
When Nicolette #1 was in the show, and you guys all got drunk together, I think
Oh,
those
we had a baby that night.
things. Yeah, you did.
You finding your lottery ticket on
Yes.
Toadie's bum,
Biggest
that was
highlight.
very funny.
Another time was another one with Izzy, was breaking into the lawyer's house. That was hilarious.
Another big night for Aaron and David when we were making cocktails.
Oh yeah, and Jane walked in.
Jane saw a little bit too much.
Getting caught naked on several occasions by various people,
many
by
times.
tourists out in the bush. Our laugh out loud moments generally involve us being naked, which is in itself funny.
But we should probably finish here because it's going to take 40 years.